Okay, we're going to move on to police report.
Yes, this is Christy Calderwood from the police department, and for the month of May, as I reported last month, we are moving into our bicycle and motorcycle safety month. So specific to that, we had a total of 202 enforcement contacts specific to bicycles that resulted in either a citation or a warning given. For motorcycles, we had a total of 41 enforcement contacts with either a citation or a warning given. And just keep in mind, this is just for the month of May, and obviously numbers are a little different than they would usually be with the current stay-at-home order. We did a total of 7 social media posts, which includes Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that were specific to bicycle or motorcycle safety. Which included Commissioner Pensiers had sent me some class info that he mentioned in the last meeting. That was posted on our social media as well as the city website on May 13th. And leading into the month on April 27th, we did a specific social media post on Carlsbad Boulevard for loud exhaust. And with that being said, we tried to have most of our Office of Traffic Safety enforcement details this month focus on obviously the bicyclists and motorcycles, but keeping in mind that loud exhaust is something that's a consistent complaint for us, and with the boulevard being busier than usual with the parking being closed and people wanting to get out with the weather increasingly getting warmer, we have noticed an increase with people cruising up and down the boulevard with loud exhaust. So we usually try and do some education along with the enforcement specific to the loud exhaust complaints, and we will use the electronic message boards that you will often see posted up, and they'll say messages like loud exhaust enforcement ahead or quiet zone ahead. Unfortunately, we have not used those this past month or in the last couple of months because the ones that we usually use are throughout the city for COVID-19 education. So we hope to be using those coming up this summer as things with COVID-19 start to change. And then I wanted to go over, so that's just specific statistics for bicyclists and motorcyclists, but in relation to just enforcement in general for the month of May, we had 171 enforcement details. We had 147 extra patrols that were specific to Carlsbad Boulevard. We had 579 traffic stops specific to Carlsbad Boulevard, 275 citations, and 343 written warnings. So even with the, I think, with the stay-at-home order, the numbers are pretty high because of all the saturation details and things that we've been doing. But I think throughout the summer we'll see an increase in those numbers. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions? If you raise your hand, I will note you, okay? I see one. Anybody else before I call? Okay, Commissioner Pensier.
Yes. Could you give us a little bit of detail on the types of warnings and citations that were issued to the cyclists and the motorcyclists? In other words, did you give any fix-it tickets to the motorcyclists? And what kind of citations or warnings did you give to the cyclists? What were the most common things that they were asked to do differently?
Sure. So I'll just start with the motorcyclists. One of the biggest things that we saw was, one, speed, which is something that we're always looking at in terms of Carlsbad Boulevard, just because of the high density of pedestrians that we're also trying to protect, and bicyclists. So speed, but then also we are seeing an increase of motorcyclists driving in the bike lane, specifically around the area of Cannon and Carlsbad Boulevard. So once the traffic gets congested in that area, they try to go around the vehicles. So we had a lot of citations written for that. We did have some fix-it tickets for loud exhaust to not only motorcyclists, but actually mostly vehicles. This type of ticket is kind of tricky because if you receive, as a motorist, if you receive a fix-it ticket for a loud exhaust, all you have to do is go to the court and show that you have basically fixed the problem and pay a $25 fine, and then there's nothing saying that when you walk out the door you don't change and modify your exhaust back to the way that it was. So it's definitely a consistent problem that we're trying to address, and that's where we feel like the education and just the consistent presence. I know just from driving around, even on my days off, the motorcycle officers, and then with our OTS grant money, the boulevard is probably more saturated than ever with officer presence. And then specific to bicyclists, with the 202 enforcement contacts that either had a cite or a warning given, our 2 bicycle officers were the ones that were doing most of that enforcement, and they were stating that the thing that they saw the most was bicyclists not stopping for pedestrians in the crosswalks. And then, you know, there's also the issue right now where people are trying to spread out, so there's a lot more pedestrians in the bike lane, which is an issue, so we're trying to address that as well, try to keep people on the sidewalk so that they're not impeding the bicyclists and causing further issues. But that was the biggest issue that they saw, was not stopping at all for people trying to cross the street. And then there's always some that are bicyclists that are riding on the sidewalk. That's mostly on the east side of the boulevard rather than the west side. But that was kind of the mission for our 2 bike officers, was to be in the village and kind of be in the parks and stuff like that, but then just be on the boulevard to have conversations and educate people, whether it was through a citation or a warning, about bicycle safety.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I have a question. Are there any DUIs on bikes?
Yeah,
Oh,
we do often make arrests for DUIs on bicycles. I did not look up that statistic. I didn't hear of any this particular month. That usually occurs in the summertime, but we start to look for it right around the beginning of May with the kickoff of Cinco de Mayo, and then leading into Memorial Day weekend, and then the holidays where we head into the summer. So I don't have that specific stat for you at this moment, but I can look into if we had any in recently. But yes, we do arrest people for DUI bicycle.
Yeah, just wondering, because my office is in the village, and lately I've been seeing a lot of people, even with drinks in their hands, driving, or not driving, riding their bikes. So
yeah,
that was interesting. I see Commissioner Perez has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just one question in regards to, was there any pedestrian incidents or infractions, you know, specifically with the parking lots being closed on the boulevard and, you know, pedestrians trying to cross over to get to the beach?
not that I heard. You know, knock on wood, we didn't have any serious injury collisions, and that's something that we specifically try to address on the boulevard, because once the weather starts to warm up and people are kind of coming out, we start to see those types of issues, and we've had a couple bad accidents there, but luckily we have not had any recent incidents.
Dear, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I think those are all the questions we had for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
You
So
too.
I see Vice Chair Johnson joining us. If we can note that at 3:19 p.m.